Friends and family, thank you for joining me here at the American News Network with Chris Sanders. Today, Hostage 51. I'm a hostage here with you and the rest of the world as Jack Wagon Joe wreaks havoc across the world. And I want you to know just in this last week, I've discovered how he has spent $1.1 billion for World War III. I'm going to get to that. First up on the news, the legal age for consent in Iraq is going from 18 years of age to 9 years of age for girls. And this is Sharia law that's being activated. So they have basically legalized child rape in Iraq. Israel hits Lebanon and Syria, and as they do, they ignite what I think is going to be World War III. Syrian leaders take control, but then immediately Putin takes them out and the leader out. He puts like a $10 billion bounty. What you're seeing behind me also is America has also just granted $385 million to Taiwan. So if you add the $725 million to the Ukraine and the $385 million to Taiwan, $1.1 billion invested into World War III. 107,000 U.S. veterans stay homeless out on the streets, but the prerogatives of this country and how we treat our soldiers is crystal clear. You don't even get a tent. So, Putin, as a response to this, he gives Iran the Su-24 and the Oreshnik, and he has given them this mobilization missile to hit Israel. They've also put the Oreshnik in Iranian submarines. This war is kicking off. Biden has also put nuclear missiles in Poland. That's why that Poland U.S. missile base is one of the first prerogatives and places that Putin intends to hit out with the Oreshnik. This has been news. We gave also Zelensky 50 Attack missiles, not just the missiles, but also the U.S. forces to shoot the missiles. And 10 of those missiles were taken out, as well as our troops. This is not being reported, but why are we in this war? It is a constitutional violation. Congress has not voted on a war, A. Neither is the Senate. We're violating the War Powers Act of 1973. But I'm going to tell you, it gets much worse than that. Zelensky is a termed-out president. He's not the president. He is as popular as Jack Wagon Joe is. 1 out of 5 people would maybe vote for the guy. This guy behind me, Mr. Xi Jinping, he's a dictator. He changed the constitution of China so that he could remain in office. It's got out of control. The United Nations, they were sending in a United Nations train. NATO with the TACM and Storm Shadow missiles. It was bombarded. And as we switch on over here, I'll let you know you can go to chriscast.com. That's one of my other channels. And then also I do put the YouTube station up here too, and that's just in case things kind of get changed. Little side note here as far as what a lot of problem is, as far as what people say. This is me and Joey out in California after a massive forest fire. And I'm showing people how you can use the sun and water dehumidification systems so that you can then dehumidify the water and then keep the area clean. And then, we went to this forest fire area after California forests were set on fire. And if we just dehumidify the area, and the result right there, as you can see, is clean, fresh drinking water that we get just right out of the atmosphere. And we've been doing this now for 20 some odd years. And even NASA has adopted this as far as a water system in the, as far as what we can do. Now, Iraq's children, again, a lot of their parents have PTSD. There are literally these communities of kids that are living. And now 9 years of age will be the consensus age. And I just wanted you to think about that and think about the children in the future and what we're lining up for these kids. And they've legalized basically child rape. Pure and simple. So I want you to know the United States is in the violation of the Constitution and the War Powers Act of 1973. Bibi was simultaneously giving a war speech as Biden was talking about the ceasefire that was happening in simultaneous moments. Then Bibi starts bombing Lebanon and Syria. So he's done Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza and has dragged us into World War III. That's pretty much confirmed, and I want you to know that. This sets off things in a serious matter for the United Kingdom, Germany, and the United States. I would say France as well. We also, the United States, confirmed today, just hours ago, that we were behind the Syrian attacks in a joint effort strike with Israel. So our crash test dummy, we got two Hebrew crash test dummies, and that would be Zelensky and Benjamin Netanyahu working in tandem with Jack Wagon Joe. The president, our cabinet, they're all in violation of the War Powers Act, and they should be addressed for this. If Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, well, then who is aiding and abetting in the criminality of what is going on? Did we decide to go to war with Russia? And if so, I would like to know who decided on that. Jack Wagon Joe doesn't have the acumen, and the fact that the Senate and Congress haven't activated Article 4, Section 4, and they haven't relieved both the Vice President and the President of their duties because of aiding and abetting the enemy and of taking bribes, Article 2, Section 4. These are constitutional violations the American public has seen in front of their eyes. What do they expect us to ignore? The entire system that we've established? You mean to tell me now, and this is something you're going to have to vote on, Congress, we're going to war against the entire country, the entire continent of Africa? Keep in mind, France was just asked to leave Chad and Niger. We have no ties there now. All 22 nations of Arab nations are now our enemies. We would be looking at a 10 million man force versus a 1 million man force. That's not even if we looked at the population being 85% of the population versus 15. As it stands through Benjamin Netanyahu, we're going to war with, and Congress, you got to decide on this, not just Iran and Jack Wagon Joe that we get to inherit, but also Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Gaza, Russia, North Korea, China. And I'm asking you not to just think of the countries and the military industrialization complex that you truly represent, but the American citizens that are from Iran and Lebanon and Gaza and Russia and North Korea and China. I want you to think about the 10% of the United States population that's here that you'd be starting an internal war with because of some sort of racism, some sort of shadow government. And so we got to pray for Kennedy. We got to pray for the new FBI director, Kash Patel. Cash is king. Disseminate those people, Cash. You need to. And I'm at your service, and they are quaking in their boots, as they should be. But the United States finally did confirm its role in a fresh Syria violence and attack that we did. And we are behind those attacks, and that has now been confirmed. The other thing I think that is very interesting is Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin here behind me. He is very concerned about President Trump. He thinks that Jack Wagon Joe and the current administration are complete maniacs, and he's saying with the $725 million that they just stole, don't you think they're going to use a chunk of that to take out the president so that they can continue the military industrialization complex that they're invented against Russia out of thin air? I'll let you know, and as President Putin says, he is not our enemy. They are a Christian, Muslim, diversified country. They have been, Putin has been leading the world for 24 years. I want to let you know that our enemies are people like Adam Schiff, George Soros. We got to use Jim Jordan and Cash Patel to go after Adam Schiff. And they need to go after Jack Smith, and they need to go after Fannie Willis and Alvin Bragg. And why? I'm going to tell you why. They violated the Constitution. If you need the keys and you're a half-ass attorney, here it is. Study the 24th and 25th Amendment. You see, we were allowed an election free from a poll tax or other tax. And every time Trump had to show up to a court case, he was taxed or other tax. And you violated the Constitution because we were allowed to have an election free from error. And all of those court cases that were illegal were taxing, and they were taxing the election of the United States of America. And that cost every single contributor of Trump money. And again, through that, you cost a poll tax or other tax. They made a direct violation of the 24th Amendment. And by having a state, it even lists a state or the government, meaning that the state of New York could not interfere, or even the DEA, the FBI could not interfere. And so they made a 24th Amendment violation. And Cash, those are your, that's the groundwork you need to disseminate the entire organization and rebuild it, because they were violating the United States Constitution. Okay, so maybe people might say, well, how am I reading that? What am I reading into? So I'll take it there with you. No problem. Okay. 24th Amendment. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors for president, vice president, or senator representatives in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. So the state of New York, they were creating a lot of poll tax or other tax, violating the 24th Amendment. That's my opinion. That's a reason right there, FBI, CIA, all these DAs. You were going against the right of the citizens to vote in a primary or an election. And you created a tax upon the situation and a threat, a jail term threat. This all needs to be addressed. Now, right now, in case of the removal of the president because of his inadequacy, you have the 25th Amendment. And he's unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. He's outright crazy. In fact, he was too old to be prosecuted, so how is he old enough to start World War III and to flush the United States down the toilet? Trump is going to be fighting bricks through tariffs. And he's got to fight the gold standard, so everybody in the world is going to be getting 100% taxed as they should be. Now, if you need to come join with me, we're going to create a public and a private vehicle for Drill Baby Drill, because some people can't participate. You can learn more at americadrillbabydrill.com. But we are going to be drilling the ever-bejesus with our side, our main man, to make America energy independent. Oh, yes, I am. God is good. God is great all the time. And he's given us the tools in which we need so that we don't need to get involved in Saudi Arabian versus Israeli conflicts. Let them fight it out between themselves. And for the ones that want to love, well, come to America. We'll teach you all about that. We have Kursk falling. 250 people got killed. Now, Ozempic. Apparently, it's causing people's stomachs to fail. Some little highlight I got from the Hodge twins I'm going to bring up. China, they are having massive economic failures. 12,000 corporations in China. They all failed around Shanghai as we're speaking. We're getting inundated with UAPs, UFOs around our military bases. I'm going to suggest that it's our own government creating a shadow so that they could simultaneously start World War III. If it's not our own government, then they're Chinese and Russian spy drones. Either way, it's a smokescreen because they're stealing $24 billion. They just stole $1.1 billion. California, Oregon, Washington. How much did you get from FEMA, from the cyclone bomb? I bet it's as much as they got in Hurricane Helene out there in North Carolina. Don't worry, Oklahoma and Texas received the same. Now we got Abbott finishing up the border, but I'm going to let you know, he likes being seen on TV, and there's a supremacy clause in here to where they're supposed to protect us from invasion. So California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, they're all guilty for not having a wall. This is a supreme law of the land. You're supposed to protect us from invasion. You have oil and gas taxes. What in Christ's name are you doing with our money? You have the money to build the wall. You have the money to finish it today. But you let 18,000 convicted criminals come in. 13,000 convicted murderers come in. You didn't protect us from an invasion. You are supposed to protect us in our general welfare and our peace and tranquility. It is the opening preamble in the Constitution of the United States of America. Each state government, from Gavin Newsom's to Greg Abbott's, has failed us on the southern border. But wait, there's more. On the northern borders, they're failing us through China, they're failing us through India. The statistics in Canada is that they have between 1.3 and 1.9 million citizens from India, 4.9 illegal aliens with expiring visas. Now, do they go down to India or do they come into the United States? There's many different types of ways in which we're getting invaded. And the Crash Test Dummy Award goes to Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Zelensky as they work in tandem with our crash test dummy for the World Economic Forum, and also basically the military industrialization complex. You know him, I know him, and the 50-year award goes to Jack Wagon Joe. He likes to sniff little kids. You got to keep away your ice cream or you'll have none. Now, new news, what we also have going on, Jared Kushner's dad, Chuck Kushner, he's going to be the ambassador to France. C'est la vie. Now, we have a lot of warnings going on and there's stuff happening now. Tiffany's father-in-law, Tiffany Trump, Massad Goulos. So Tiffany apparently has a husband, and her father-in-law, Massad Goulos, is going to be the ambassador to Saudi Arabia. So we have the fathers, Jared Kushner's father, he's going to be the ambassador to France, and Tiffany's father-in-law, Massad Goulos, he's going to be the ambassador to Saudi Arabia. Putin even says we are all here held at hostage for 51 more days. He's asking that we protect President Trump too. I finally am understanding what Bidenomics means. What Bidenomics means is that he's going to spend as much money as possible on militaries in other nations, like $1.1 billion just this week. Again, $725 million to the Ukraine, $325 million to Taiwan, zero for America. See, President Reagan had trickle down. He would trickle down the money back into America. This guy trickles down money only to other countries, and he wants to rob us of $24 billion more dollars in the next 51 more days. $1.1 billion, he's already doing it in front of our eyes. How much can he take? How many hands are going to be out? See, they discovered a loophole in the law and they're using it. And so Putin wants to warn us that Trump is not safe because of these loopholes. And the United States just confirmed an attack on Syria. My name is Chris Sanders, and I want you to know that I'm being held hostage right with you here in my home. And I'm fighting for my children and my grandchildren and my country. And I know that we don't believe in war. We believe in love. I see Modi as he is acting like a kindergarten teacher around a whole bunch of radical children. I'm also seeing the maturity of Putin as he's not taking the bait from Jack Wagon Joe, and I thank him for that. Again, we have had multiple UFO sightings over the Capitol. This is one in case you haven't seen it, and over our Air Force bases. So there's many theories out there. There's either aliens, us from the future, our own government, China, or Russia. But we have orbs that have been popping up over Langley, over the United Kingdom, over Washington, D.C., and people are getting them on video. These are just facts that are happening and going on. I don't know if you've been paying attention to it, but these orbs, these lights, are getting recorded around Washington, D.C. As far as the latest shipment that was being given out to Zelensky, well, Vladdy P and the KGB had a nice little mission, and they took out an entire brigade of troops. But this is the train and the attackums and the storm shadows. So you mean to tell me instead of feeding everybody for Thanksgiving throughout the world, our investment was instead just blown up by Putin in a train? So we could have loved thy neighbor, but we chose to hate thy neighbor. And I think God responded with how far that would go. Zelensky sees this Oreshnik and he wants to try to replicate it. Son, by the time you even get started on that, you will be ashes. I believe that the day's ticking for Zelensky and Netanyahu are a ticking number at this point. Not like it's not for all of us, but as far as the enemies in which they've created, I don't see there not being an end to it. I did have something very interesting that I wanted to play for us, and it dealt with the Russians that are out there with Patrick Lancaster. Okay? And so we have Russians that are giving their opinion out there with field reporter Patrick Lancaster. And let's see if I can actually find this. Oh, something that I did want you to see, and this is the Ozempic report that was brought up by the Hodge twins of Texas. And I thought it was so interesting that I'm just going to let you see their intro to it. But Ozempic is actually backfiring on a lot of people that are using it. It's something that is very deadly. It's killing their stomachs and their digestive tracts permanently. And it's also causing out-of-control breast cancer. So this is an Ozempic story brought to us by the Hodge twins. And let's give this a listen to here.
Trulicity, Byetta, you name it. All of them have a black box warning that this Gila monster venom and the venom protein, for those interested, is called Exendin-4. EXENDIN-4. Black box warning is within 12 to 36 months, you will develop medullary thyroid cancers of all kinds. Oncologists around the world, after seeing my interviews about this drug being made from venom, have told me it's not thyroid cancers they're seeing in all their Ozempic patients. It's exploding breast cancer diagnoses in them. You're going to see every form of cancer from these drugs. FDA just added another warning that it causes gastroparesis. Do you know what that is? Paralyzed stomach for years. Meaning like you will vomit every day for the rest of your life. And there is a CNN article from last year says hundreds of thousands now have paralyzed stomachs that cannot be reversed for years after stopping Ozempic. Anybody with diabetes, this drug is promoted for diabetes. It is published. It worsens and speeds up diabetic retinopathy. Do you know what that is? You will be blind faster.
Wow. So how are they prescribing this? Well, the pharmaceutical companies, they ran a bunch of tests, and it's safe and effective. Just like the don't say it. Just like Fauci's,
Don't say it.
Shot. Hot shot. Well, you can trust the FDA, right? Yeah, of course you can. A lot of people's losing a lot of weight. this guy's a conspiracy theorist. Who said, what did I say, FDA? Or is it who approves that? Drug Administration, FDA.